We'll still present. Everyone that's on will be is on cell phone call-in, so it'll be verbal communication. We're going to start live now. This is Steve Dodge, the Assistant City Engineer. I appreciate you joining us tonight. We will record this presentation tonight, so it'll be put on the web page for Bryant Lane tomorrow or Wednesday, as soon as our communications can load it on, and then be available for viewing. This is the virtual open house for City Project 2021-09D, Bryant Lane Area Improvements. And with us tonight is also Greg Anderson, the project manager from SEH, and Dustin Jafeski of SEH, the project engineer. Basically, I'll go through a overview of the project and the proposed improvements. A little bit of update on the stormwater review, project costs and assessments, and then the schedule. And we'll be still able to do Q&A at the end of the presentation, because those that are on cell phone can still do a voice question by unmuting when we get to that point. So I'd like to go through the presentation, and then we'll do a question and answer in the end, and this will be recorded. Again, this is the City Project 2021-09D, Bryant Lane Area Improvements. This is January 18th for the 6 p.m. virtual open house meeting. For the record, there has been a complication in getting people into the lobby in Teams. So at this point, those that could have signed in by calling in with their cell phone, we will have this recorded. So it'll go on the web page, but we're going to have to review and resolve getting into a virtual meeting where those that can participate or couldn't participate can, or they can, Greg and I can reach out to those that had complications and discuss it individually also. Generally, the project is going to be the Bryant Lane area, which is the Majestic Woodlands development, and it's the entrance road is Blackberry Trail, and then you got Bryant Lane, Bradbury Court, and Burke Trail, and a little section of Brent Avenue. And the general project was authorized by the city at September 14th, and it was based on an approved 2020 capital improvement plan from the spring of 2020. And the general Majestic Woodland development was from developed in 1997 and 98, which included an urban section of road with sewer, water, and storm improvements. There was some maintenance done in 2003 and 4 with crack seal and chip seal. And then we have two reports from Braun Intertech. The most recent report was done last fall of 2020. That's where we did the potholes in the streets to verify the subgrade soils and get recommendations from a geotechnical perspective. Braun Intertech recommended a full reconstruction based on the soils and based on the gravel that's out there does not meet specification. And in order for those two things need to be replaced, there is also some curb imperfections that were and deterioration that was also noticed when reviewed by our senior technician. So based on the report that was done by Brown Intertech, the recommended proposed street improvements would be to put the roads back at basically the same width, but would be new bituminous pavement, an aggregate base, new concrete curb and gutter. Now there's existing surmountable curb. What's being proposed is barrier curb. That is standard practice because our maintenance department chooses barrier curb due to the fact that it allows for snow plowing to follow the curb and not jump it. The engineering department prefers barrier curb because from a stormwater perspective, when you have heavy rainfall events, it keeps the water in the curb line. And in general, with use of mountable curb on new developments, just because no one knows where driveways are going, but once you know where the driveways are, barrier curb is the better product to put in. And then lastly, what happens with barrier curb, and barrier curb means that it's your standard curb you see where it goes 6 inches straight up, rather than the lip, the 4-inch lip that you have to bump over when you get into your driveway. And what happens is they do a curb cut at your driveway, so you only have 1.25 inch little lip, and it's very smooth to drive over. So there's benefits. Other developments that have had existing surmountable curb, and then we went ahead and installed barrier curb, have had no concerns or complaints after that's been installed. There's always a little concern ahead of time because it's maybe different than what you got, but in general, the residents have been happy with the removing the bump that you have now to drive over, and going with a small 1.25 inch lip that you just drive over, which is much smoother. The 2-foot sand section will be installed too in order to improve the road subgrade, which are high in silts. And that's part of the reason why the roads deteriorate earlier, because we are in a freeze thaw condition in Minnesota, and high in silt content roads, subgrades will hold water, and they basically don't allow free draining of the subgrade, and it allows the flexible pavement, which is your bituminous pavement, to deteriorate prematurely due to fluctuation in temperatures and especially freezing. And so that 2-foot sand section that's being proposed as a reconstruction will include road fabric below it to separate the new drainable sands from the existing subgrade that is high in silt, and also would include drain tile to make sure the road subgrade stays dry. There will be proposed also minor sanitary sewer and water main repairs and maintenance. And then the general storm sewer is in good shape, but typical with a road reconstruction, all your shallow crossings need to be replaced for what's called lateral storm sewer. We reviewed the area stormwater infrastructure, and in general, it's been other than the laterals, what we would like, one of the proposed improvements is to add water quality street treatment structures in order to remove the total suspended solids and some of the phosphorus before it gets to our ponds. That's a very typical device now in order to meet redevelopment reconstruction standards for water quality. And there's a couple of the stormwater outlets that are near the roads that are under review that'll be decided on in final design. There was a questionnaire and survey that was submitted to the neighborhood, and we had 4 properties that reported sump pumps. One that said it was running. One property reported a backyard erosion issue, so we'll want to look further into that once we get into design. 8 properties reported irrigation systems. 1 property reported invisible fence. The rain garden program is not a viable option for this project because of the subgrade soils that are high in silts. So that's why we transitioned into a water quality treatment structure. And there's 2 proposed on the project. And no properties reported any water or sewer problems from the questionnaire. The preliminary cost and funding for the project. The total project cost is $2,425,000, and the street portion of that is basically $2 million. The storm sewer improvements are $300,000, and then the sewer and water utility improvements are $128,000. The street and storm improvements are what are part of the assessments. The utility improvements would be funded by the utility funds. The general reconstruction assessment policy is that 35% of the street and storm cost would be assessed to the property owners. And single family lots per the assessment policy are assessed on a per parcel basis. So the general assessments were looked at from a city policy assessment amount, which is calculated. And then there's also an independent analysis done by an appraiser for special benefit. And the city policy amount, which would be 35% of the street and storm cost for single family, is proposed at $12,146. The benefit cap that's as high as the city, as recommended by the appraiser's special benefit, the amount that the city could assess is $14,000. So we used the lower of the 2 when proposing assessments. So the city policy amount is lower at $12,146. That's the assessment amount that is going to be proposed in the feasibility report. The special assessments would have a 10-year term with interest, if not paid basically within the year of construction. It would just go on to the assessment would go on to the county taxes. It'd be on a 10-year term, paid on an every 6-month basis on your taxes. There is a unique situation on Blackberry Trail that I'm sure some residents have a question on. And on the east side of Blackberry Trail is a city property and pond, and the city is taking on that assessment, and we pay double the rate as a non-single family parcel that the single family parcels would pay. And then there on the west side of the road, there is a multi-family lot that's tied into the business association, and that though is a city pond that fronts almost all of that property along the curb line, and also we have city easement. So between the pond and city easement, the city is taking on that assessment also. So that business association would not be assessed, is not being proposed to be assessed. There is a lot 61 that was on Blackberry Trail, and but it's basically the first single family lot on the west side as you enter the project at Bryant Lane. It's on the west side of Blackberry Trail. It's 5825 Blackberry Trail. Their driveway does not, is that property is not being assessed because their driveway is not included in the improvement area, but they're included in the preliminary assessment roll because they're adjacent to the project. So we want to make sure they're notified because they are still impacted, just not assessed. The general project schedule is we're hosting our meeting, virtual open house tonight, and we were looking forward to getting the feasibility report to be received by council on January 25th. And then we would have a second virtual informational meeting scheduled for February 11th. So we have another meeting already on the schedule. And then the plans and specs would then be brought before council in February, and a bid opening potentially in March. And we hope to have an assessment hearing and an award of project in the April-May area, so we can get the project off and running. And because a reconstruction project, is going to take, typically 3 months to complete. So we want to make sure we, start it, no later than July. That is the general presentation. So we can now open and go into the question and answer session. So for those residents that are here on phone, you still will be able to ask a question. Dustin will try to recognize someone and allow you to ask a question.
Does anybody have anything?
Yeah, I do actually. This is Ben Baker, 5891 Bradbury Court.
Go ahead, Ben, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So my first question is the area on the map that's got the yellow line that was mailed to us has Blackberry Trail being refinished, correct? And then it moves east into the development.
Yes.
Is that little section of Blackberry Trail being assessed to our houses only, or is the city taking that portion of it?
That's a good question, and for the first question, and the general answer to that is that right now all the streets were lumped into the assessments, but the city is taking on both frontages on the west side and east side of Blackberry Trail for the properties that we own. So the city would be taking up the majority of the cost. So, but your question is valid in that I will research that with the Public Works Director and find out if we want to adjust our approach to show that the city is just going to take on that portion because it's a wider road, and that it's not even going to be incorporated with the with the Majestic Woodlands project area.
Okay.
So if I understand your question right, I think that's something I should get back to the Public Works Director on, and then we should make a decision on that to respond to.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason being is that's, you know, the main artery in and out of both of these developments. And I know it's a small section, but I feel like the other development should be, that's their only way in and out. So at least that section should be divvied up amongst more houses then.
Or
If it's
picked up
going to
by
be
the city.
Or picked up fully by the city.
Okay, that's a valid point, and I'll go back to the Public Works Director and we'll make a determination on that, and which is why we meet before we post the feasibility report to council, because these are the type of questions that are very helpful. Thank you. And you had a second one, Ben?
Yeah, sorry about that. My connection was a little wonky there. And then my other question is about the pond, and I know the city is dealing with that, but is that supposed to be like a retaining pond where water stays in there always, or is it always supposed to kind of naturally, because it seems like at times ponds, that pond has water in it always, and at times it's bone dry and it kind of is an eyesore. So just wondering a little bit if you have any on that pond.
Yeah, Ben, we were not addressing the ponds themselves as part of the street improvements, except for maybe a pipe that enters them. We're just looking at that. The ponds themselves, as far as evaluating them to the level that you're talking about, that would typically be done as a storm, part of the stormwater CIP, and nothing's been defined with that pond, but I'll note your concern, and but no, we have not studied doing any improvements to the pond or ponds in conjunction with the street project itself.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know.
Except for a pipe that leaves the street and goes into the pond, we'll be looking at the pipe itself.
Okay, perfect.
Does anyone else have questions that they would like to bring up during the Q&A session here?
If anybody else has anything to add to, Steve, Greg, or I can field any questions you have via email or a phone call as well.
Yeah. So this video is being recorded. Will be posted on the webpage for those that may have had difficulties getting on, and I guess we'll have to evaluate whether we think we should host another meeting. But at this point, we already the video will be available for the presentation. Anyone can look at the video and still provide me further comment in the next couple of days until Thursday morning, and that we can do an adjustment to the feasibility report going to council based on those comments. And all we're doing at this point is just trying to get input from the neighborhood. So we did that by the questionnaire. We're doing that by this presentation, and we're just trying to share some of the results of what our findings are right now. And then the idea is next Monday was the schedule for us just to, on consent agenda, just bring the feasibility report to be received by council. And then what happens is we schedule a hearing, and that would happen in February, the end of February, we would schedule a hearing. I believe that's February 22nd. And that's when council would open it up to all residents to come to a hearing or write council. And then we can provide further input at the council level, for or against the project or certain concern or anything you want to bring up to council. You're welcome to join that meeting. But we'll also do this same virtual meeting, and I call it a virtual information meeting because we're trying to inform you even more and answer further questions of the feasibility report and the proposed assessments prior to, and that's scheduled for February 11th right now. So we already have another meeting scheduled. So those that had complications tonight have another opportunity to participate in that meeting and participate at the council meeting on February 22nd. So that being said, we will get some information out to all people that signed up. I'll be sending an email out through our communications department of everything I just discussed as far as schedule wise, and also that the recording we have here is also on the webpage and there to view. Any further questions? Otherwise, we'll probably sign off. Yeah.
Steve, this is Greg with SCH. A couple of things I just wanted to clarify. I did get a message a text message that people were unable to unmute themselves. So Dustin, maybe you could look into that. One thing you talked about.
Well, can Dustin just unmute everyone and then see who wants to speak?
I can mute all, but I cannot unmute anybody.
*6.
There you go.
Oh, yep. *6 is a common code for you push that and it unmutes and mutes on a conference call. Yes.
So, Steve, this is Annette Maggi, and I have a question.
Yes.
Can you just address, Steve, for the neighborhood, what the policy is around? Does the city have to have agreement from a certain percentage of the neighbors in order to move this forward and make the assessment? Or can council just approve this without agreement from, majority of the neighbors?
Thanks, Maggie. That was Annette. That was a good question. And the way this works is my understanding is the public works director was in communication with neighborhood representatives. I don't believe this one was done by petition, is my understanding. And in 2019, and then it got added to the 2020 capital improvement plan that was approved this spring of 2020. We then got fully authorized to do a feasibility report in August, September. And then now we're moving forward with the feasibility report. And so the final decision maker of whether to order a project is the council's decision. And staff, makes a recommendation of whether it's a feasible project or not. The neighborhood provides feedback to council, and that council takes that feedback in and making their decision. So that's the process, if that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Hey, Steve, this is Bill Oswald, 5927 Bryant Lane. I just had a quick question regarding if the improvements begin later this summer, kind of what can the neighborhood expect for kind of access to residences and ingress, egress, that type of thing as improvements are ongoing. Can you talk about that?
Sure, that's a very good question. And what access is written in specifically in our agreements with the contractors, that you have to maintain access to residents at all times. So the only change to that is when they're digging right in front of your driveway, but usually they do about 300 feet of road a day approximately. So they go by your driveway within, and then within a couple hours, and then they fill it up with gravel by the end of the day. That's one major disruption. The other major disruption is when we put curb down and concrete driveways. You got a 3-day disruption when you have to park in the street when the curb goes down, where you have to walk over the curb. And then you have another 5 to 7 day disruption if you have a concrete driveway. And then that has to cure, and you have to park in the street on that. And then if there's, this project has no major pipe work. Major pipe work can definitely also affect your access. But this project has just maintenance for sewer and water, and some reconstruction of hydrants, and some maintenance on the gate valves. So basically, when a general consensus is, or how we run the project is, the contractor will maintain access to your driveways at all times, and you'll just have those minor convenience days that I discussed where, but other than that, you should have access, because they'll ramp your driveways up with gravel, when they need to make sure you have access. Does that help with that question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Do we have any further questions? Just pause for a minute in case someone is struggling with their *6, was what I was hearing, would allow you to unmute or mute.
Hi, this is Sue Gliva.
Hi, Sue.
There's a little bit of a delay. I'm a council member and a resident, and so this is a new process for me, so I'm trying to take notes on everything. My main question is, since we can't see, or, we're trying to get all this information and write it down, are we planning, I couldn't quite understand if we were planning another meeting like this, or just relying on seeing video, or seeing if people wanted, because we don't really know if people dropped off or anything, do we?
Well, Sue, that's a great question, and thanks, for being here and part of the, neighborhood. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the fence. I'm honestly, this has happened, so I'm kind of on the fence on what we should do on this one, because this virtual meeting is going to get posted on the website tomorrow, and everyone's going to get an email saying it's been posted that's signed up. So everyone that's signed up goes on what's called the Civic Plus system. That's what you signed up on, and and that system's run by the communications department of Emerald Grove Heights, and I will make sure everyone that's signed up gets an email saying the video is available on the website, a web page for Bryant Lane. So for that reason, I'm not, and because we have another meeting scheduled for February 11th, which is just 3 to 4 weeks away. I mean, there's a way to keep moving this project forward. I know the meeting didn't go as planned, But with the recording, we're still able to share not only the recording, but we're also going to share the PowerPoint presentation on the website also. So you'll have everyone in the neighborhood will have both to pull off to view or pull off on the website. So all the information will be readily available. And so I'm not sure we need to schedule another meeting at this point, unless I'm getting a lot of feedback that you think we should. But
so one question: if you don't have if a neighbor didn't sign up, so they would have to go to the website, like the city website, and they could pull this information as well, like the video. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. And that was in your letter, that you can go to the webpage for this,
and then
for Bryant Lane, right, and you can get the information. So because that information was in the letter saying this stuff will be posted, I think we tried to cover all angles, because let's face it, in COVID-19 and going virtual, and we're trying to work with we're trying to work with consultants, and there sometimes a virtual meeting glitch like this can happen, but at least we're able to record and proceed, and everything will be posted. So I'm not anticipating scheduling another meeting, because I already have one scheduled for February 11th with the neighborhood again, and that's just after the council receives the feasibility report next Monday.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you for that.
You bet. *6 for anyone else that would like to unmute and ask a question. All right. I think at this point we will close the meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for getting on their phones. I apologize that the video portion did not work, but we do have it recorded, and we'll post it on the webpage for Bryant Lane, as is noted in your letter the whole neighborhood got, and we'll send emails out also for everyone that signed up to be at the meeting, so everyone gets notified, at least that signed up. So thank you very much. We're going to stop recording now, and everyone have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.